but I mean,
very happily.
Very happily, yes.
Yes, it was very special because I came first for the Bulgari project, photographs for the new hotel, and then for the wonderful trip we did to Yunnan and Tibet.
We've been back in Beijing for a few days, but what are the changes you see compared to your last visit in was in 2013, I think, when we did this beautiful exhibition?
Well, it's quite amazing because there are huge changes happening, and I'm astonished in every street where I walk because there's such a big evolution in cleaning, in being more comfortable, and now lately I was also told, because of course I don't see enough to really know what changed. It's just a main feeling of big change. And I'm being told that there's also a big project of recuperating history, which I'm most interested in. So I'm very happy that this is happening. Because Beijing will become much more beautiful if they recuperate the historical sites.
How would you compare? I mean, you have lived in Rome for so many years, I guess, 30 years?
Yes.
Is there, a link or a comparison between old city like Rome and Beijing? Is there any?
Well, first of all, there's a link that I feel in the people, the relationship. I have I find very open relationships with Chinese people, even if I don't speak the language.
Yeah.
The way we communicate just with looking at each other and smiling, and the generosity I get from Chinese people is very similar to Italy, actually to the south of Italy, where people are more open. So it's something that pleases me a lot.
And from a perspective of heritage preservation, did you see any parallel or things which struck your mind?
Yes, I'm seeing it now, because of course Rome has been taken care of for a long time. Whereas in China it's a new concept to really take care of ancient sites. So of course there's a similarity because there's such a long story, a story of almost the same length.
Yeah.
So there is a similarity. It's just a difference of timing.
So what was your reaction when, a few months ago, I spoke to you and mentioned to you that I was advising the developer of Bulgari in China?
But I was very happy about that because I'm very attracted by China. And I have lived in Italy for almost 30 years. So to find a link, which you found, to put monuments, ancient monuments of Rome, combined with ancient monuments of China, it was very interesting and also a lot of fun to find solutions for that. So I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, the way we placed also, Beijing cities on the east side, and Roman cities on the west side.
Yes.
So that was
very nice.
That was very nice.
It was very nice also because it's a new way of looking at the link between the two countries.
Yeah.
I don't think it has been done. So it's interesting. It could also be developed as a concept.
And you think? I mean, we chose the corresponding pair by shape.
Yes.
It was not entirely Rome and Beijing, but it was like Italy and Beijing.
Yes.
Like we chose the Dome of Milano with the
Temple of Heaven.
Temple of Heaven.
Yes, there is a link anyway, because there's a historical coincidence, and all of these buildings have in themselves a very special emotion because it's history. And that's what actually I am looking for in general in photographs. It's not about describing the monument, although I do it in a very precise way, but that's not my main aim. My aim is to give the emotion of the place, which of course depends on the monument, but it also depends on your own state of mind, because you project it on a monument very much. So the link between Italy and China is certainly to be developed. One could do more research and find quite extraordinary combinations.
Especially on the food side. But
on the food side, yes, definitely.
But we're not going to go into that this time.
But that's a pity, because that would be interesting.
But what about, the second step of the project, the collaboration with, the Bulgarian developer is, of course, to photograph all the buildings of Genesis. You're talking about emotion, right? What would you like to show when you are photographing, the office towers, the hotel, the wonderful museum to be designed by Dado Ando, and what sort of emotion or what strikes you in that complex of building?
Well, first of all, what strikes me is the size of the project, because it's absolutely huge. It's quite a rare thing now in Europe to have such a big project. So it's striking how in a short time they were able to put up such a huge project of 4 buildings. And of course I'm fascinated by the architecture of the Ramo, because it's beautiful, especially the museum is, to me, the most beautiful part of the project. But also to put them one aside the other, and with each building with a specific destination, is it's like a city in the city. Board. It has all the different aspects. And of course what is very important in this particular project is the location, because it's in the center of Beijing, but it's in the woods. It's full of ancient trees, there's the river, and you feel to be in nature, although you're in the center of the city. So it makes it extremely pleasant.
And of course there is the garden.
The garden is fabulous. Yes, which was designed by another Swiss, Enzo Enea, and he had a fantastic idea of bringing very old trees that look as if they had always been there. So they give a very strong atmosphere.
So for you it's like a dream commissioning, because you have architecture on one side and trees on the other side, which are your 2 favorite subjects.
Yes, I did photograph on one side the architecture and also the single trees. And then also, of course, also the combination. But some trees are so beautiful that I did portraits of them.
So, what was your impression of? We just came back, the three of us, from a wonderful trip in Yunnan and Tibet, because we'd like to prepare here at the temple an exhibition for next year. But what, in 2 minutes, what can you tell us about this exhausting but quite fabulous trip?
Yes, in 2 minutes is very short time to explain something so big. I was extremely impressed because I've never seen anything like it. Let's say maybe what is striking me most, and I still have to think about it, is the immensity of nature and the fact that it's a nature which is untouched. Because I live in Switzerland and I live in nature, but Switzerland is so small compared to Yunnan and Tibet that men have sort of taken over.
Yeah.
Every lake, every forest, every river is under control in Switzerland. They know exactly what it is, they use it for electricity, they check it, it's all under control.
They're logging forest.
Yes, and in Yunnan and Tibet there are big regions that are untouched. And also there are much less people compared to the immensity of nature. So myself, I had a wonderful feeling of being very small in this big nature with a huge horizon. And I felt like being in a different dimension. It's a very strong feeling. I had never felt before. Maybe something similar I felt in Africa, because their nature is so overwhelming. But it is stronger in Tibet especially.
But isn't that because there is also the architectural element that, when you see a beautiful Tibetan temple or fortress or monastery in a nature, it gives a totally different.
Yes, that's also very strong, because that also somehow looks untouched. Because it is as it was centuries ago. And it is also lived the same way as it was lived centuries ago. So it is like plunging into medieval ages, which is an extraordinary experience.
So again, architecture and nature.
Yes.
So when did you start as a photographer?
I started as a photographer 10 years ago, because before that I was a painter. And actually what I did is use a camera and photographic techniques just to add to my painting techniques. Because the thought of the image I'm doing is of painting, not of photography. So I don't do documentaries. I think of an image like I think of a painting. So I permit myself to intervene and to work on light mainly. Because I was, of course, very much influenced by Italian art, because I lived there so long. And so yes, when I look at a monument while I take a photograph of it, I already imagine it like a painting.
So which are the painters which have who are the painters who have influenced you or
For the
struck
light,
you?
mainly Caravaggio.
Mhm.
He uses this light, a light which makes the subject evident.
Mhm.
And he also puts in the dark what doesn't interest him.
Mhm.
So it's like doing a synthesis of something you want to tell.
Mhm.
You only tell the essential part.
Mhm.
And you put in the dark, maybe you still feel that it's there. You put in the dark what is less important.
Mhm.
So it really becomes a portrait of the tree or of the monument. But at the same time, so it's a portrait, but at the same time, it becomes like a dream. It becomes oniric, because it's obviously not like a documentary. It's not.
Yeah.
And I mostly take away what disturbs me, the noises. So then it becomes more dreamlike, although being very realistic.
So what is invisible cities? I mean, you have written a book about invisible cities. You have photographed, from New York to Milan, from Rome to Beijing. And so what is the concept of invisible cities?
So the concept is of Italo Calvino, a magnificent Italian writer, and what he says is that in a city, what you admire are not the 7 biggest towers, but actually you find a response to a question of yours. Because you walk through a city and you walk in front of a monument carrying your emotion, which you project on the monument. So it's a combination of both. You feel the emotion of the place, but you also at least 50% put your own emotion. So it's a combination of these two.
Can you tell me a little bit about your training as a painter? Because you've told me an incredible story with this old mentor who really disciplined you, and sometimes you didn't know what he was trying to teach you.
Yes.
And the second part of the question is, why do you think all of a sudden you became very well known as a photographer? And I wouldn't say struggle, but you always you were always a dedicated painter, but success didn't come.
Well, as to your first question, I was extremely fortunate to meet Carlo Guarietti, who is a very refined painter, and he told me everything he knows. And I, of course, probably didn't catch everything, but whatever I could. So he taught me how to paint, which I think is a more beautiful experience than going to school, because it's a direct experience. I would go to his studio and work with him, and he was not able to explain why painting works or why painting doesn't work. He would show me directly, which was sometimes very tough. But he did show me what is the refined part of a painting. I would also go to museums with him, and he had me choose a painting, and he would ask me, why is it good? Why do you like it? And we would talk about every detail of the painting. So it was a way of teaching me how to see things, which was extremely precious to me. And then, maybe while I was painting, my paintings resembled his paintings too much. And when I added photography to it, it was such a big change. Not only in technique, but also in the content, because I had to translate it into photography. It became something totally new. And probably the success depended on that. Because still nowadays in photography there are so many things to be discovered. It's new. The digital, the fact that it's digital and what you can do with the photography. So I explored it from the painter's view, which then automatically, without thinking of it, became a specific style, which did not resemble the paintings anymore. So it became my style, and that was, of course, a very strong message.
So you couldn't have achieved what you have achieved in photography if you hadn't gone through this very long training and long road where you had to take, other work to survive, I suppose.
Yes, totally.
Because you were not a 100% painter, I suppose.
No, I also did graphic design.
Yeah.
I did graphic design and slowly developed into painting. But no, I could not have done photography without the painting. Well, actually, I think of myself even today as a painter more than a photographer.
Yeah. So what sort of advice could you give to people who are trying to be artistic or, seek success in that? I mean, it's a very lonely road, but and success came for you late in life.
Yes.
So what sort of advice can you give to people?
Well, the main advice
Because
I would
it's
give,
easy to give up,
Oh, if you have the passion, you should never give up. Because maybe it takes more time than you thought, but the passion is the most important thing to take care of in life. So, an advice that I can give to young photographers is to not only concentrate on learning techniques, photographic techniques, learn a lot about art in general. Because photography only describes the tool you're using. It's like saying a pencil. Then you can write, you can draw, you can do good things or bad things, you can do many things with a pencil. You can do many things with a camera. So what you have to learn is what is an image? What you want to say? How do you want to say it? And then you use the camera to do it. But first you have to think of what you want to say. So it's very important to open one's mind and to go and see works of big artists, try to analyze them, and not concentrate only on photography. Because that's only a small recent section.
How do you nurture this passion? It's easy to, everybody faces, tough times and ups and downs, but we've been knowing each other maybe for 10 years, and the passion is very strong, I can see that in your eyes, the eyes of a young person.
Yes, one stays young. That's why you have to keep up your passion.
Yes.
Because it has you.
But how do you keep it up? It's a lifestyle. It's
a lifestyle. It's not a job. Now that I live of it.
Yeah.
But even before, it makes me meet people I like. It makes me go to places that I like. On every photograph, I do a research that I like. Because it's a research on the subject, but it's also always a research on myself. Because it depends on my state of mind. So, it's always extremely interesting.
But don't you think that there's also a mental work to do with yourself to really be free and then apply that to your art? Do you think that 10 years ago you became really, really known as a photographer? Do you think that it's also the beginning of a freedom that you acquired mentally?
Not so much.
No?
No, because whether you're well known or not, you do the same kind of research.
Yeah.
So maybe what I can tell is that I think the most important experience I had in working in art in general first in painting and then in photography, was when I learned in Italy to follow my emotions. It sounds like something easy, but it's not. Because we are distracted, we're always extremely rational with what we do in life. So to actually know what you feel about something is a research to be done. Because the more you concentrate on what you feel, the more you will be able to express that. And the most important message in an image is a feeling. It's not a description. Everybody's capable of describing. But to communicate a feeling is more complex. So to be able to do that, you first have to know your own feelings. So it's an exercise. I remember when I started realizing that that was important, and how I concentrated on staying in silence and to even just feel, what do I feel right here, right now, sitting here talking to you. I would do that on a regular basis, and then it became a habit. Then it becomes automatic. But I really had to train on that. And it was a wonderful discovery.
What can you tell us about the Great Wall?
Oh, what an experience, yes. I had never walked in such a historical place, in such a big historical place. Well, first of all, it was important to me to convince the guide to bring me to an ancient part which was untouched.
Yeah.
Because a part of the big wall has been restored and it's packed with tourists.
Yeah.
So I was very happy to walk here because we had to walk quite a lot. And then the experience of seeing the wall so far to the horizon and to walk in nature and to admire this huge monument was fantastic. It was a beautiful experience.
So you didn't retouch the wall?
No, only the light.
Only the light, yeah. And maybe the stars.
Yes, maybe a little bit, but the important thing is the light, because working with the light, I can illuminate what I like.
Yeah. Which is here, the incredible shape. I mean, I go on the wall almost every week, but I never noticed so clearly this.
It's like a serpent.
The serpent.
It's like a serpent that goes through nature. But if you, let's say you just go there with an iPhone and you take a photograph, you don't notice it so much because there's difference of light, sun and shade, so you don't read the serpent. So what I did, working on the light, was to make it more evident that it is a serpent. What I actually do, I'm in a place, I look at what I see, I feel something very precise.
Yeah.
I take a picture, it doesn't represent what I felt. So then I manipulate it to bring it back to what I felt when I was there.
Yeah. So do you take notes? Because
no, not necessary.
You're taking lots of pictures, so
yeah.
So do you know already which one will come out?
Mostly I know.
Yeah.
Because there's an emotion when you take a picture. All photographers know that. We all take too many pictures.
Yeah.
Because it's become easy with digital. Too many pictures. So, but we all know that there was one that was a big emotion. We can feel something very strong. I think it's usually because you have a connection with what you take a photograph of. And you remember that. So actually all the others you took are useless. That's going to be the good one.
I mean, in your photograph there are no humans.
Are two up there?
Yes. But they're very, very small.
Well, because I like this fact of the human being small and nature being big. And the monument being big.
So is that a state of mind that you should remain very humble and...
Yes. Yes, I like that. I don't necessarily think we should be that humble. It's because it's a good feeling to feel small. And nature is so much bigger than you. It's not a good feeling to be in control of nature. It's a better feeling to belong to nature, to be a part of it. So
That's an interest. Can you develop that? You know, what do you mean? So it's a sort of let it go feeling.
Because when you're part of the huge nature, like I felt in Tibet, then everything is okay.
Yeah.
On the contrary, when you are living in an environment in which you have control, you tend to be anxious about that control. And nothing is okay. Because it depends on you. When you're a small part of nature, it doesn't depend on you. You're nothing. You're part of it.
So do you think that you lived in Rome for 30 years. I mean, I know you lived in New York, in big cities and all that. And then all of a sudden, life brings you back to a small village in Switzerland. Do you think that it was a good move for your art, for your artistic?
Yes, I do think so. But it was a good move for me as a person, so indirectly it's a good move for the art. Well, there are several reasons. One reason was that I had left Switzerland when I was 15 because I felt like in a prison. It was too small, too narrow-minded, and I had a terrible urge to see more of the world. And I also didn't want to belong to a precise group of people. I wanted more freedom of thought. Now at my age, I can go back because it doesn't matter if I belong or not. I have my own mind.
Yes.
So now
You belong to yourself.
I belong to myself, yes. My mind is shaped by life. So going back, it was a very strong experience because of course I remembered everything I refused of Switzerland. And then I realized that that was absolutely unimportant. And I can finally live the wonderful side of Switzerland, which before I didn't even see. That's also a question of age probably, because when you're very young, you refuse a very organized society and where everything is safe and everything is insured. When you're young, you hate that. When you're older, you love it. So now, I think I live in a very high quality of life because I live in nature. But I brought my suitcase of experiences and work to that nature place. So I can live both, which is fabulous.
So can you tell us a little bit about the exhibition you're going to organize here at the temple in 2018? So we have the subject we have chosen together. I mean, we traveled in Yunnan and Tibet, and so what will be the theme of the exhibition, and do you have already in your mind the photos where you have the emotion?
Some of them I have in mind. What I have in mind more precisely is the sensation I had when I was there. So I would like to be able to express the strength of nature, also the toughness. I found, Tibet is not an easy nature. It's tough. So I would like to be able to express that. And of Yunnan, I would like to express the primeval side of it. This untouched nature. And also it's paradise-like because I was so surprised to walk in these valleys and to find myself in front of an olive tree, which for me is a tropical tree. And
in the Benzolan Valley.
It's fabulous. There's winery.
Close to the Yangtze River.
Yes. And beautiful flowers and just a tropical environment. And within a very short time I find myself in front of a 6,000 high mountain with a glacier. So the combination of both is extraordinary. It's like paradise. Because in Europe, in Switzerland, I have the high mountains with the ice, but I have to go to the south of Italy to find the tropical plants. In Yunnan, it's all together. It's these huge contrasts. it's fascinating that it's all in the same place. And the people obviously live that very well. That's another thing I was astonished of, how friendly and how open the people are. Because I mean, I now live in a valley in Switzerland, so I know that mountain people usually are more narrow-minded and they are quite suspicious of foreigners. But they don't have that so often. I did not get this feeling from people in Yuan. They're extremely open and ready to laugh.
Yeah.
So obviously, that's because they have this wonderful climate. It's like a microclimate, which is extremely friendly.
Yeah. So it's going to be a little bit of invisible cities, a little bit of trees.
And landscapes,
And
which is for me new.
Can you explain to us one of your strongest emotions during this trip?
One of my strongest emotions was at Namsto Lake.
Which is basically at 4,007 meters of altitude. And
Yes,
it's a sacred lake in
It's
Tibet.
a sacred lake.
It's as big as Lake Geneva.
It's huge, and it looks like the sea because there are waves like in the sea.
Yeah.
But it's surrounded by mountains with ice. So I didn't expect it to be so big. I didn't expect the mountains with ice to be so close to the lake.
Yeah.
And you can look very far. The horizon is huge around it. So it's an overwhelming feeling. The overwhelming feeling is even stronger because I felt dizzy because of the height. So it was like being in something surreal.
Yeah.
Probably also a little bit because of the height. You feel it in another dimension because your body is another dimension. And everything you see is different. It's very strong. Wonderful experience.
Well, we're very much looking forward to see that. And maybe it would be the occasion for another interview at TTalk. Well, thanks a lot, Irene.
Thank you, Jean.
And we'll see each other very soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.